Most importantly, thank you very, very much for taking the time to come out this evening and give us all the opportunity to enlighten you with our companies. My name is Andy Hollingworth. I'm the CEO of Toople, and I've been the CEO since the market entry, which was in June 2016. My background is always been the telecom segment, ever since post-education, which is 1988. So I think that probably calls me one of the dinosaurs of the industry. So a lot of change. It continues to change. In terms of the experience within the telecom segment prior to Toople, probably most notably Orange, that small mobile network where the future was bright, and I spent 3.5 years there heading up the distribution and the dealer channel. And over that 3.5 years, we saw customer growth from 3 million customers to about 10.5 million customers. Sadly, the Orange brand is no longer in existence in the marketplace. That was gobbled up by EE, and then latterly BT bought EE for about 10.5 billion. And then prior to Toople, 12.5 years at the TalkTalk Group, director of their B2B division, and two real functions in that area, which was looking after their wholesale channel as the director of their wholesale business and taking that over about a 6.5 year period from sub 50 million turnover to around about 280 million pound turnover. And that was driving about a 32% EBIT as well. So that was a key growth driver in revenue for the TalkTalk Group, but also a good cash driver as well for the group, while the consumer business was in a battle with our friends at BT and Sky over TV content. And then latterly at the TalkTalk Group, looking after their small business, corporate business and enterprise business direct arm, which was a business that was in minus 20% performance when I got asked to stand in and provide a transformation. And it took me about 3.5 years to turn that round from minus 20% to single-digit growth. Purpose of that story is, what did I see when I was in that business that then led me to Toople? And that was, there were small businesses out in the UK market that were being sold what I would call prosumer propositions, hero-based propositions. And big companies like BT, like TalkTalk, like Sky, knew how to market to the consumer and knew how to give hero deals that, in essence, gave you a great proposition and a reason to sign up, but didn't look after you once you were a customer and once you were on, and your price moved upwards in the duration of the contract. And I thought there's a place in the market for somebody that recognises the difference between consumers and between businesses. And that was why we brought Toople to market, to try and be different in the market and to look after the customers. What do? Very simply, we go after the part of the SME market that is less than 50 employees. So that is called the micro SME market, and there are about 5.5 million of those businesses in the UK. And typically 90% of that 5.5 million actually have less than sort of 4 employees. And that's the market that we see and have seen over the last couple of years as a real key opportunity, because BT still has upwardly of 40% of that market share. But there are people that have been caught in contracts where the price moves continually, whether it be from the mobile networks, whether it be from BT, where RPI is introduced all of the time, and all the customer is waiting to do is waiting to get out of his contract. So we literally focus on what we call the micro SME market. It also has a higher propensity to act like a consumer. So it will act online, it will buy online from online propositions, which obviously reduces our overhead cost of a business. You're not looking at expensive field-based sales force to market. What do we do with that? What do we sell those small businesses? Well, we really sell them 3 simple things. Connectivity to their business, or connectivity to their home or their home working solution. Connectivity to their mobile in terms of the SIMs that go in the mobile. And then number 3, the emerging technology that will come in, and I'll touch it on another slide as we go forward. But the real big growth driver is the cloud-based telephony solutions that will need to replace some of the archaic infrastructure that we have in the UK market. So those are the 3 things we do. We take care of connectivity to premise, We take care of connectivity to the mobile handset, and we provide an overlay, which is a cloud-based telephony service to wherever they could be in the world. You could have an 0203 and 0208 number, and literally that number at no extra cost would find you wherever you are in the world on whatever device you want. And on a real-time basis, whether it be the laptop or whether it be the tablet or whether it be the mobile, you can change the routing, you can look at the statistics of that number that you've got, or multiple direct dial numbers that you've got in the cloud-based infrastructure. How do we do it and how do we go to market? Very simple, we go to market directly and directly digitally. So we're not above the line in terms of press advertising, billboard advertising, radio advertising. We are understanding the profile of our audience and the profile of those small businesses, and we are directly targeting them digitally through not clever platforms in terms of, we all know about it, whether it be social media, whether it be Google pay-per-click, whether it be Google Display, whether it be Bing. Those are the ways that we are making sure that the Toople brand sits in front of those customers, and those customers see what was 3 years ago a new entrance into the market and an unknown brand. June 2016, nobody had heard of the words Toople. All of this is backed up by our own proprietary-based software platform. And if I click through the slides, and I'll come back to slides backwards and forwards, but we have our own software platform called Merlin. Merlin sits in the cloud and is built based on about 2.5 million web pages, and literally sits on what we call API it into all of the UK carriers. So you can see we've got the TalkTalk network, we've got the OpenReach network, we've got BT Wholesale, we've got BroadCloud, which is BroadSoft, the global leading cloud-based platform in the world. We've got O2, we've got Vodafone. And what happens is when we interact with a customer, and a customer sees us online, based on the telephone number and or the postcode of their premises, Merlin in milliseconds will work out where the customer is located and what the best performing carrier is for the customer within milliseconds. What it will then do is it will then make a recommendation to the customer, and it will overlay the Toople proposition. The Toople proposition, as long as my buttons work correctly here and I can go back, the Toople proposition is always a fixed price for the life of the contract. And that is different to the way the market's traded over the last 10 years, where you sign a customer up on an online price that's really good, you sign them up on a 24-month contract or a 36-month contract, and then during the course of the contract, you increase the price to the customer to get your cost of acquisition payback. That's not what we do at Toople. In the simplistic form, if somebody signs for a super fast fibre line into their barber's shop, into their hairdressing shop, into their takeaway shop, and they pay £35 a month for a 40 meg or an 80 meg service, we guarantee that that price stays from month 1 to month 36. We never increase the price. Everything is online first, so the customer can buy online, or more often in the business market rather than the consumer market, quite often the customer likes to talk to an agent. The customer will like to explain what his needs are, whether he's running a CCTV network and upload speeds are important, whether it's straight credit card transactions from his takeaway service or from his bakery store. He'll want to talk to an agent. So about 80% of our sales come through agent-based conversations. Our business model is very simple. We have a direct route to market, as I've explained, and that is probably 90% of our business. But also having the Merlin software platform that is what I call it is an ERP-like platform. It does all of the provisioning for the customers with the carriers. It does all of the data capture of the services that they've got, and it does all of the billing and sends them a bill at the end of every month. What Merlin also allows us to do is offer that platform white labeled to wholesalers in the market. Companies like Toople in the market that want access to all those carriers can't get access to all of those carriers. So they can take the Merlin platform on a software license and they can get access to those, and we can charge them a cost plus a 10% gross margin, and that's a wholesale proposition. Very small non-strategic part of our business, but we've got a lot of small partners that really like using the Merlin platform, And again, they can white label it, so it doesn't say Toople when they produce their bills for their customers. It says their own company name. And if you're an energy provider, sometimes you want, your name, and then you want underneath it powered by Toople. So we can do white labeled, we can do vanilla branded on the platform as well. And as I say, the third aspect to our business is our marketing, our own direct digital marketing, where we ensure that 1 million customers that we think are prospective customers to Toople see the Toople brand every month and see some form of message or shout from Toople on a monthly basis. Again, all of the usual social media channels that you would associate with, the Facebooks of the world, the Instagrams of the world, Google PPC, Google Display, Bing. The real secret of managing this directly is obviously making sure that you are not spending lots and lots and lots of money to generate the inquiries from the customer. Times of day are important, interaction with the customer is important. We manage that on an hourly, if not minute basis. When a Valentine's Day happens, when impending one will be a Black Friday happens, you see the cost of digital search and the cost of digital transactions, if not quadruple, go 10 times up. We then step out for a little bit until Black Friday's out of the way, and then we come back on the Monday or we come back on the Tuesday when our search engines are at their most efficient. And I'll take you through sort of cost of acquisition of an order, which will be the first time we've shown this sort of publicly over the last 3 years, as well as the numbers of orders year on year. For us, 2019 has been a significant year of progress. Our monthly order rate from our customers has grown month on month, and I'll go through the binary detail of that. In fact, we are over 100% increase in orders for the corresponding period last year. It shows us that we've come through that first 12 months, 2 years. Is Toople valid? Will customers choose an alternative to BT, to Virgin Media, to Talk Business? And it's shown us that actually our demand now that's coming from our customers and the customer leads that come in and the conversion rates from our sales team and on online platforms, we can now see that this is a really, really exciting growth engine and a growth business. We also, in order to expand that even further, we've recently, end of July, we went live with a sales centre to complement our Northwest-based sales centre in the northwest of the UK. We've gone live with a sales centre in Durban as well. Particular reason for that, because if you imagine customers literally seeing Toople propositions or anybody's proposition, whether it be on their mobile, whether it be on their tablet, whether it be on their desktop, they see your proposition and they literally fill in an order form. If you don't capture that customer's order form within a couple of hours of them completing that order form, by the time you then get to talk to that customer, your contact rates drop through the floor. So what the South African venture allowed us to do was expand the times that our sales agents were available. It's very, very difficult to get the UK working past 8 o'clock at night. It's very, very difficult to get the UK working Saturdays and Sundays. And what Durban does now is it complements it. But what that does is that allows us to drive further conversion rates into the leads that we are generating on a monthly basis. That then obviously reduces your cost of acquisition per customer. So that's what we did. That's what we did with the Durban operation. It's now been going since the end of July. We just completed the second full month. Their conversion rates at the moment, when they are a 2-month-old team, are consistent with the UK-based team. And actually the cost of acquisition in terms of the cost of running that operation over there is about 50% less than the Northwest-based team in the UK. So it's proving quite exciting. I'll go through the customer acquisition decreasing costs and the customers taking more services from us. In essence, what's happening now is because Toople has become a brand that's established in the market, what we're seeing is every second customer that contracts with Toople is taking another service rather than just one service. So every second customer is now taking more than one service from us. That could be a super fast broadband line, it could be an Ethernet service, it could be a mobile SIM, or it could be a cloud-based telephony seat system. So every second customer is now taking more than one order from us. And then most notably as well, in the year we had a private placing. We were approached about a private placing where we had the opportunity to settle our only debt that we had in the business And the debt was circa sort of 600,000, and we were able to settle that for less than 25p in the pound. So that private placing and the approach that we had from our brokers here, where they had demand from their client base, allowed us to go and create what we thought was a really good deal. £600,000 debt, settling it for 150,000. As a company, we are debt free. We have no debts. This gives you the monthly order intake of the business, and again, this is the first time we've shown these real figures. We report them, and you'll have seen the RNS that we put out, the trading update 2 weeks ago. But simply the green bars that you see here was the previous corresponding month of the year. So you can see that if we focus from sort of April, we took 914 orders in this April versus 249 last April. So you can see I'm being cautious when I say 100% growth, but you can see now the demand that is coming from customers. And we're not the cheapest in the market. Let me be clear on that. What we're not doing is chasing the market to try and beat, the prices that are out there from Virgin Media, from Vodafone, from Talk Business. That's not what we want to do. Our proposition is a value proposition based on disruption. So it's based on giving the customer more in the price, but making sure the customer understands that he's got the confidence that that price is honoured, whether it be for 24 months or whether it be for 36 months. 99% of all of our customers sign a 24-month contract. So for you as an investor, you know that it's surety of revenue. You know that it's not just an idea. They're contracted for that 24 months. And in the cloud-based market, typically all the customers sign 36-month contracts and longer. But you can see the growth rate is quite seismic back from, this will have been June previous years ago, 146 orders, compared to this June, 1,158 orders. Now, you've got to be careful. The numbers that we are creating at the moment, we are ahead of our sales plan. The issue of being so far ahead of your sales plan is you've got to be careful that you don't consume too much cash, because every order that comes in through digital marketing costs you cash. So you've got to make sure that you're trying to reduce your cost of acquisition so that you maximize your gross profit, and then you maximize as a business your time to profit. So the numbers that we're doing at the moment is probably the numbers that we want to continue doing. Much more growth will consume too much cash, and what we're all about is maximizing the gross profit position and bringing in good returns from the customers. So what you then do is you then monitor the cost per acquisition of a customer. And what I've given you here is a comparison on the social media platforms. So you can see when we started testing social media, you can see that our cost per sale was £151 a customer. £151 for every order that came in that would be back June 2 years ago. As you then scale up and you scale up your activity, and you can see we created 253 leads, and that would have been June 2017. We made 50 sales at the cost of £151 per sale. Wind that then forward to June this year, and you can see we received 4,044 inquiries from our social media activity, and actually we made 824 sales just off our social media activity at a cost of £51 a sale. Now the way I equate that, because obviously whilst I'm the CEO in the business, I also own a chunk of the stock in the business. The way I equate that is, okay, so then what's the revenue and what's the gross profit of that particular customer worth over the next 24-month period? And if you took just a very, very simple broadband, super fast broadband line, in revenue terms, that would be worth some £700, and that's just one single order over 24 months, and we would make about 30 to 35% gross margin on that £700. So I then calculate cost per customer at £51 versus the gross margin that's available to me on that £700. That makes sense. But you can see what the secret to our business, and the secret to our business becoming profitable and becoming to the break-even point and the tipping point, is to continue to drive the cost of acquisition of a customer down. And the previous slide just supports, again, historical year-on-year data. This is orders per day that we're taking in from small business customers and home workers. So you can see that August is always a little bit of a lower month. It's seasonally affected by holidays, although I'd argue that was a very, very strong result, just short of 50 orders per day. July, just short of 60 orders per day. June, just short of 57 orders per day. As a relation to where we were in May 2017, 11 orders a day. So you can see the seismic growth of the business and the seismic gain that the Toople brand is making in the market, and the disruptive propositions that we're putting into the market, and the appeal and the results that we're getting. This, for me, is really the key slide, is driving the cost of acquisition continually down. If I relate this to my friends at BT, and I look at those figures there for my friends at BT, it's costing me about £40 a customer. BT are costing around about £100 a customer, £110 a customer. So we're being really efficient in the way that we acquire customers. What it also allows me to do, and it's the first time we've ever made the decision and been brave enough to make the decision in the last 30 days, is Toople have now come off all of the cost comparison sites. So when you go on Uswitch, when you go on Money Supermarket, when you go on Broadband Choices, within the next 30 days, you won't see Toople on those cost comparison sites. Why? Believe it or not, yes, it does a great service for the customer to show all the competitors that are out there and where the best price is, but Uswitch charge me the most money to get that customer. So when that customer orders on Uswitch, I pay Uswitch typically £90 for that customer. Secondly, by the mentality of that customer going to Uswitch and using a comparison site to buy his service, whether it be a mobile SIM, whether it be a super fast broadband line, what's the customer going to do at the end of his contract? He's going to go back to Uswitch, he's going to look for the next deal, and he's going to churn, he's going to switch. Using the social media platforms, using Google PPC, not that a competitive market. As long as we look after the customers, as long as we continue to deliver great value for the customers, then those customers will have a propensity to stay with us in the longer term. We don't need, to be subservient to Uswitch, Money Supermarket, Go Compare. At the establishment of the business, I needed to, because Toople did not have a brand that anybody knew in the market, and it was the most efficient way of me getting the Toople brand out there in the market, because nobody knew about us. Everybody knows Vodafone, everybody knows BT, everybody knows Sky, Talk, but they didn't know Toople. And I think it's a really proud thing to be able to say now we don't need those comparison sites that really want to relieve us of all of our cash all the time for, in my view, the lowest value customers. So the big move, and I know that somebody's going to start doing that for me in a minute, because I know as usual I'm overrunning. I want to really leave you, and these slides are available obviously for you to take away after today, but I want to leave you with what is going to be the most seismic change that the telecoms sector have ever seen in the next 5 years. Many of you will have seen one of Boris's key strategies is to deliver fibre broadband to premises in the whole of the UK by 2025. I think that's a real tall order. I think it's a real challenge, but it's much needed. The sad fact is that when you look at Bulgaria, Romania, Lithuania, Spain, Greece, Turkey, our average broadband speeds in this country are half of all of those nations and what they're producing at the moment. That's a really real embarrassment of how our telecoms infrastructure is established. Why? Because still to today's date, 80% of our infrastructure in this country is copper through the ground. What the government have basically said in consultation with Ofcom, the regulator, and then Ofcom driving Openreach, is that we have to provide fibre to the premise to X percentage of homes and businesses by 2025, and we have to retire the copper infrastructure that sits in the UK by 2025. Now that is going to provide significant turmoil in the market. There are 7 million copper PSTN lines still servicing credit card machines, monitoring alarms, making telephone calls. There are circa 2 to 3 million ISDN channels that businesses use, and 75% of the business phone systems won't work at 2025 because they were all designed to work on a copper infrastructure. So you'll see two emerging technologies over the next 5 years. The first is what you may well be familiar with, which is called fibre to the premise, which will be championed by our friends at BT Openreach. And the next technology that you will see is a technology called SOGEA, S-O-G-E-A. In a very, very simplistic way to explain it, because that's how I learn it and that's how I understand it, is that is what you call naked broadband, naked DSL services that provide fibre to the cabinet. There's a complete lack of any voice capability on that. So whilst you've got a copper BT line today that you can use as an ADSL2 service and take broadband on at mediocre speeds, you can also make voice calls on it. In 2025, all of the fibre solutions that will be deployed to the premises, business or residential, will have no voice capability. So what people will have to do is they'll have to replace their old office phone systems with VoIP systems. On the SOGEA infrastructure that will come into the UK by 2025, you'll have to have hosted calling apps to just be able to provide voice on the end of it. But we will end up with an architecture which will be, in my view, a patchwork architecture in the UK of multiple providers with a lot faster telecoms infrastructure than what we've got today. And I think that really does conclude the opportunity for Toople. We've proved through the numbers that you can see and through the material differences we've made over the last 2 years, Toople will be a provider that actually will be able to benefit from the seismic chains of consolidation of change that we'll see in the market, because we have no legacy. We're not built on legacy copper. We're not built on legacy customers. Lots and lots and millions of customers over the next 5 years will need to change their solution, and we're right at the front of that opportunity. Have I run out of time because you've just stood up?
Thank you very much. We have got a couple of minutes left just to open the floor to any questions.
Have you got any residential customers?
We try not to take residential customers. Certainly with social media platforms, they do slip through the net. The problem with a residential customer is a residential customer's cost to serve is far higher than a business customer's cost to serve. The calls that they drive into the business are of a very, very different nature to a business customer that drives calls into the business. The other thing is that a residential customer phoning into the business, when they're arguing and moaning that they can't download the latest version of Peppa Pig at 4:30 in the afternoon, takes our customer experience people away from that convenience store that broadband line is down and he can't take credit card transactions. So we try hard not to take consumer customers, but invariably we do pick them up.
Hello. What percentage of your new orders every month come from the price comparison companies?
What percentage of our orders every month come from the price comparison companies? So if I look at the orders for August, which were broadly 1,000, just over 1,000 orders, we took 20 orders from the cost comparison sites. So very, very small. But that wouldn't, to be fair, that wouldn't have been the case 12 months ago. Whatever orders I'd have taken 12 months ago, and probably a little bit longer than 12 months ago, I would have been taking 60, 70% from the cost comparison sites. But I had to because I didn't have a brand that was established. Now we have a brand that's established that 1 million digital users see, then we don't need the cost comparison sites. Because £90 is not just your only cost. So I have to pay Uswitch £90. I then have to use a software platform that charges me another X% on top. So the actual realistic price is probably something like £110, £112. Then you've got the customer. I have to supply a router to the customer. So you've got to factor all of that in as well. And a router, non-fibre router is about £25. Fibre router is about £35. So by the time you work out that cost from that comparison site, I'd argue that it swallows all of your gross profit up and your gross margin up in that 24 months. Now, let's be clear, if you're TalkTalk, if you are BT, and if you are Sky, Those guys work on the principle that if we make, let's say we make £150 gross profit over an 18-month period on a customer, we'll take that and we'll throw that at the customer. We're happy to make no money for that 18-month period because our churn rate works at anywhere between about 1.5 to 2% a month. So we're keeping 99% of our customers and then we're in profit. As a business, Toople can't afford to do that. I've got to get our company into payback cash generation as quickly as I possibly can for our investors. And the only way I can do that is drive the right volume of orders at the lowest cost, but the right kind of customers as well.
Just wondered how you can pay off a debt of £600,000 for £150,000. Normally, it would only be companies going bankrupt that do deals with creditors that can do that sort of thing.
The loan was put in from one of the original founders of the business as a value of us gaining the IPR for our software platform. And I think it's probably, I can't comment on the individual, but it was right time, right place, and that individual needed money. And we realised that that individual needed money, and we made an offer, and he accepted the offer.
To accept a quarter return just for cash.
Yeah,
Get it immediately.
I can't speak on his behalf, but I think he was desperate.
Please keep the noise down at the back of the room.
Thank you. When do you expect to be self-funded? You said that a year ago, but it hasn't been the case.
When do we expect to be self-funded? We are obviously continuing with the growth story, and we will continue to push the growth story, but making sure that obviously the cost of acquisition of a customer really comes in at its lowest level to actually getting to sort of a self-funded position. We've said before that I think that we said next financial year we would be self-funded and we would look at break-even point, and we've no reason to disbelieve that.
With the PSTN lines dying at 2025, I presume you want to sell the telephone system as well, maybe hosted or something like that as an awesome product for the future.
Absolutely. One of the great, actually, one of the great, I guess, case studies we've got is our friends here at Turner Pope, who obviously moved to some wonderful new offices less than 2 months ago, and they fully deployed the new cloud-based telephony system from Toople. Their call recording to make them FCA compliant is using our call recording platform that is FCA approved for them. And interestingly, with the new premise that they've got, actually they've not got super fast connectivity yet because there are all sorts of way-leave situations. So their cloud-based system, believe it or not, is operating on 4G SIMs at this point in time. That's how versatile a cloud-based system can be.
Hi. How many customers have you got at the moment, and more importantly, how scalable is this? Because it's all about customer acquisition and keeping the cost of acquiring the customers down.
Yeah, customers. We're sort of approaching the sort of, and we've not sort of given the figures of total customers that we've got billing on the base. There is a difference between wholesale customers that are billing on the base that we don't own and direct customers that we own. We're approaching sort of the 10,000 directly contracted customer mark, and we're acquiring somewhere in the region, as we said from our previously reported figures, we're acquiring around about 600 to 800 new customers a month. This gentleman's had his hand up a couple of times.
This will be the last question.
Yeah, it's actually two parts, but could you say what your churn rate is, and also how much is the cost of the Durban office adding to your G&A costs?
So our churn rate is sort of really, really low. The market average churn rate of a customer base is around about 2%, 1.5 to 2% a month. We've not publicly stated those figures, but we are well below that figure. What I would say to you is that's not anything to be proud of, because at the end of the day, we're so new. A lot of our customers haven't come out of contract yet. So I'm not going to stand here and shout about our superb churn performance, because I don't think that's credible to do that while you're only a 3-year-old business. What was your second question? Cost of the Durban office is negligible. been able to agree a cost per sale rate with the Durban organisation, which is currently 50% below my full on-cost rate of my Warrington office. So it's quite attractive. Quite attractive.
Thank
I'm
you,
also
Andy.
exploring the cost there to deliver some customer experience, not first-line customers, because we should always try and be UK onshore for customer service, but also sort of second-line escalation. I'm also exploring that as well. But the attitude of the staff over there, the attitude of the will to work, the availability, their average handling time on calls, it is exceptional. And it's a great accent. You know, the Durban accent is the most diluted form of the Afrikaans accent and closest to a UK accent. So it works really, really well.
I'm going to have to stop you there,
Sorry.
Andy. Thank you very much. It's wonderful to see the growth.
Thank you very
has.
much.